OP dropped a photo of a creek at night with a glow stick floating like bait. Caption, come collect. Replies filled with jokes, fed, and a few anons typing stop like it mattered. OP posted coordinates and a time window. No threats, no manifesto, just logistics like ordering food. I told myself it was trolling and still grabbed my coat because the idea lodged in my skull. I should have closed the tab. I didn't. I kept refreshing like it was a live game, waiting for the moment someone called it fake so I could feel smart and go to bed. The thread wouldn't give me that. It kept sliding forward, post after post, people acting bored while they sharpen each other up. Somebody dropped a pin on a map. Somebody else corrected it. Wrong side of the gate. Park by the service road. 10-minute walk if you don't move like a bitch. It wasn't spooky. It was practical, like they'd rehearsed it. I left anyway. Not to be a hero. Not to help. I left because my brain kept picturing that green stick bobbing out there, and I couldn't stand the idea of waking up and seeing an update like no-show. I hated myself for that, even as I started the car. The drive was short enough to feel doable and long enough to let regret build. Every time I lost signal, I felt my pulse jump. When it came back, the thread had moved again, a nonce arguing over satellite shadows, over which trees lined the water, like they were grading a homework assignment. One guy kept posting, "Don't go alone." People replied with laughing reacts. Another guy screamed, "Call cops," and got told to kill himself. That's the tone. That's always the tone. I pulled up to a locked metal gate with a private property sign bolted on crooked. No other cars. No headlights sweeping the road. I sat there with the engine off, listening. Nothing but distant water and the ticking of my cooling hood. I checked the time window. Still open. I checked the thread. New comment. He's here. No name. No tag. Just that. My throat went tight. I stared at my own windshield like it might show a reflection that wasn't mine. I climbed out, locked the car out of habit, then realized how stupid that was if I had to run back fast. I found a gap where the fence sagged into a ditch, and I stepped through mud that sucked at my shoes like it wanted them. My phone light made everything look worse. Wet bark, dead leaves, a narrow path that shouldn't have been so obvious. Somebody online had described it perfectly. That part made me angry. That part made it real. I kept refreshing as I walked because I didn't know what else to do with my hands. The screen lit my fingers ghost white. Posts flew by. Stream it. Pics. Glow is moving. You'll hear it before you see it. That last one sat in my head, heavy. I stopped, killed the phone light for a second, and listened. I heard only the creek, steady and close now like breath. The trees opened and the bank dropped. I saw the water first, black and slick, then the glow stick, bright green, drifting slow along the near edge like it was waiting for a hook. It looked fake until it touched a rock and spun, and that little rayol movement made my stomach flip. I crouched, reached, and grabbed it. Cold chemical plastic. My hand came away wet and shaking. I followed the bank with my light and found the roots, big torn roots from a fallen tree, dirt hollowed underneath. A black trash bag was jammed under there, twisted tight, pinned by the roots like someone had shoved it in fast and left. The bag sagged into the waterline. It was heavy enough to bend the plastic into hard angles. I didn't open it. I leaned close without thinking, and the smell hit me through the plastic like a slap. Not bad garbage. Not dead animal. It had that sour sweet rot that makes your body reject it before your brain can argue. I gagged so hard my eyes watered. My phone slipped, clacked off a stone, and I grabbed it before it went into the creek. My hand was shaking so bad, I kept missing the unlock. I backed up and almost fell on the muddy slope. I caught myself on a branch and got creek water up my sleeve, ice cold, and suddenly I was furious at OP, at the thread, and myself for being here like a damn contestant. I dialed 911. My voice came out thin and stupid. The dispatcher asked where I was. I tried to explain, and it sounded like a lie. She asked what I found. I said a bag, and she went quiet for half a beat like she knew exactly what that meant. She told me not to touch it. I told her I already had. She snapped, "Step away from it." I did, but I kept my eyes locked on that root ball like the bag could crawl free and come after me. I stayed on the line and waited, pacing in a tight circle because standing still felt like dying. My phone buzzed with thread notifications, and I hated that it could still reach me out here. I looked anyway. People were cheering. People were demanding proof. Somebody wrote, he found it, like they were watching a map of my footsteps. I wanted to throw the phone into the creek and stomp it under rocks. I didn't. I kept scrolling like a sick idiot. Headlights flashed through the trees up by the road. 2 deputies came down the path with lights bouncing, hands on their belts. The first thing one of them asked was, "You alone?" Like that mattered more than the bag. I nodded. He looked at me like I was already dirty. They walked to the roots. One crouched and aimed his light. His shoulders stiffened. He didn't touch the knot. He just stared, then stood and said to the other low, "Call it in." The other deputy kept his beam on me like I might bolt. He asked why I was here. I said I saw something online. He said, "What online?" Like I'd said I saw a UFO. I showed him my phone for half a second. Just a post with the creek photo and "come collect." His face changed. Not shocked, more like annoyed. Like he'd been dragged into some internet bullshit again. He said, "So you came out here because some asshole told you to?" I wanted to bark back. I wanted to say, "Yeah, and so did you, and we're both standing over the same fucking smell." Instead, I swallowed it because arguing with a cop in the woods felt like a great way to become the next bag. More units came. Tape went up. Radios chirped. The creek kept running like it didn't care. I sat on a wet log because my legs started to tremble from the crash after adrenaline. I kept checking the thread because I couldn't stop. Every siren, every flashlight sweep, the thread had it first. Cops on scene. Blue lights. They're taping. How the hell did they know? Nobody was filming from the road. Not with that angle. Then it happened. A new post popped up. Image link. I clicked without thinking. It was my headlights. Through trees. Same angle I'd seen when I pulled in, but closer, lower, like whoever took it was crouched a few yards off the trail, watching me roll up, watching me sit there like a coward. Caption, he came. Right after that, another set of lights moved up by the gate, slow, careful, like someone creeping, not lost. One deputy snapped his head around and jogged up the trail, radio barking. I heard him yell, "Stop right there," and then a different voice, younger, saying, "I'm just hiking, man." The deputy didn't laugh. He made the guy come into the open and kept his hands out like he expected a knife. The guy backed up, muttering, then turned and left without arguing. The thread updated before the deputy even got back down the trail. My mouth went dry. I looked up into the dark and tried to find a phone that took it. Nothing. Just trunks and brush and the hard white bounce of deputy lights. I hadn't posted anything. I hadn't even typed. I hadn't said a word in the thread. Either juste batcha. And yet there I was, tagged by strangers, turned into content, pulled into it like a hook in the lip. A deputy asked me again why I came. His tone sharpened this time, suspicion creeping in because that's what happens when someone finds the body-adjacent thing. I started to explain, and it sounded pathetic. I thought it was a troll. I wanted to make sure people were talking. He cut me off and told me to sit tight and keep my hands where he could see them. That's when the fear finally got clean and simple. Not fear of the woods, not fear of the bag, fear of the machine behind the post. The thread wasn't sharing a crime to stop it. It was building a crowd to witness it. It was handing out directions so the guilt got spread thin, like a smear nobody could wipe off. It was making sure the story belonged to them, not the dead, not the cops, not even the dumbass who showed up and called 911. I watched the thread keep moving, a nonce laughing, a nonce coaching, a nonce counting how long until cleanup. And I realized I'd done exactly what they wanted. I'd carried the proof to my own eyes. I confirmed it was real. I'd become another set of hands that touched the edge of it. That's when the fear hit clean. The thread wasn't reporting a crime. It was recruiting eyes, stacking spectators, spreading guilt like a virus, so nobody could say they were innocent. A call-out Thread hit B with a cropped selfie and a claim that the guy was a predator. No evidence, just a story written hot enough to make people angry. It was the usual bait. Half a face, a town name, a timeline, and a lot of I know what I saw energy that dares you to doubt it. I clicked it while my brain was still foggy and told myself I was just looking. That lasted maybe 30 seconds. The replies didn't ask questions. They warmed up like a crowd that already decided what it wanted. Anas did what they do. Pulled his name, employer, relatives, old school photos. Someone posted his LinkedIn. Someone else posted a property record. Somebody dug up a yearbook picture and circled his face like they were hunting a criminal on a corkboard. Then they posted his sister's number like it was a prize. I tried to push back and got buried under cope and shill. I didn't write some speech. I wrote the bare minimum. There's no proof here. Stop posting numbers. If there's a crime, call the cops. That was enough for them to decide. I was part of it. Every reply I typed got screen capped, mocked, and turned into a little side quest. Found his friend. Found his HR. Found the enabler. It felt like arguing with a swarm. You don't win, you just feed it. Then the thread turned tactical. People started posting scripts for what to say to his boss, his landlord, his mom. They argued over wording like they were polishing a cover letter. One guy told everyone to sound calm, so they didn't get dismissed as internet weirdos. Another guy insisted you should cry on the call, because tears sell better than facts. Someone posted a checklist. Verify address, call employer first, then family, then neighbors, then post results for accountability. They didn't need to dox him harder. They needed to perform the ruin correctly. I kept refreshing even though it made me nauseous. I told myself I was staying to slow it down, to maybe convince a few people to chill, but that's bullshit. I stayed because watching felt safer than looking away. When you look away, you have to admit this stuff happens whether you watch or not. A photo appeared of the guy outside his building. Not close enough for a clear face, just close enough to say, yeah, we can reach you. The thread cheered like they'd scored points. A couple of nons complained the angle sucked, like it was a bad shot at a wedding. Then a voice clip dropped, his confession. It sounded real enough to make my stomach fall through the floor. Breath at the start, a little room tone, the kind of tired shame you hear in real calls. He said the words everyone wanted, that he did it, that he was sorry, that he knew he'd get what he deserved. The thread exploded into celebration. They acted like they'd caught him red-handed, like the internet had solved the case in one afternoon. I tried a different angle and asked who uploaded the clip and where the source was. They laughed and told me to stop playing lawyer. One anon quoted my earlier post back at me and wrote, "You wanted evidence, here it is," like they'd invented truth by shouting it. I listened again, then again, not because I wanted to, but because something kept snagging. The cadence, the small pause before certain words, the way the speaker clipped the ends of sentences like he hated hearing himself. A dumb habit I have where I say, yeah, before I correct myself. It was mine, not kind of similar mine. Mine. My mouth went dry. My hands went cold. I stared at my phone like it was suddenly an object I didn't understand. I knew that voice. Not him. The cadence. The little breath before certain words. It was mine. I did the frantic inventory thing. I checked my socials and saw nothing hacked. I checked email, login history, two-factor, password manager, everything. No alerts. No weird posts. No messages sent. Clean. Too clean. Then I checked my voicemail and found a new message. Private number. One voicemail. I almost didn't hit play because I already felt the shape of it. It was my voice calling my mother, telling her I'd done something unforgivable. Not a messy rant, not a drunk ramble. A tight, flat confession. The fake me didn't beg or explain. It just planted the worst idea in her head and hung up. I replayed it until my ears hurt, trying to catch a glitch. There wasn't one. It sounded like me on my worst day, and that's what made it work. I called her, straight to voicemail. I texted, no response. That panic is hard to describe without sounding dramatic, but it's not movie panic. It's practical panic. It's your brain running outcomes like a spreadsheet. She believes it. She calls someone, someone else hears it. The story spreads. Your name changes shape. I didn't even know what the unforgivable was supposed to be, and that was the point. Let her imagination do the heavy lifting. I drove to her house shaking, rehearsing explanations, and I drove like an asshole because every minute felt like more cement drying. At a light, I opened the thread again and saw people already bragging about it. They weren't bragging about the Predator guy anymore. They were bragging about the tool. Samples are everywhere. You don't need a hack. Discord clips, stream VODs, voicemail greetings. It hit me how much of my voice I'd left lying around online, like spare change. Years of calls, jokes, recordings, gaming clips. I never protected it because who the hell thinks of their voice as something you have to lock up? When I got there, the house looked normal and it made me furious. Normal porch light, normal doormat, normal quiet street. I used my key and walked in too fast, like I could outrun what she'd already heard. She was sitting at the kitchen table with her phone face down like it was radioactive. Her shoulders were up. Her eyes were red. She didn't jump when I came in. She just stared at me like she was trying to decide if I was real or just another version. I started talking immediately, too fast, because I couldn't stand the silence. I told her it wasn't me. I told her it was fake. I told her people can copy voices now. The words sounded stupid even as I said them, because if you're a parent and you get a confession in your kid's voice, it's fake, sounds like the oldest excuse on earth. She asked me, quiet, if it was true. That question felt like a slap. I got angry and I hated myself for it. I swore. I paced. I shoved my phone at her and made her look at the thread, like reading it would disinfect her brain. She scrolled with one finger like it hurt to touch. She saw strangers posting numbers and addresses like it was nothing. She saw the scripts, the fake concern, the little debates about whether to sound professional when you try to get someone fired. I watched her face change as she realized this wasn't one bad person accusing another bad person. It was a crowd practicing, and the crowd didn't care who it hit as long as it proved the method. My phone buzzed again. On 4chan, the thread title changed to "We can make anyone say it." That was the moment my stomach finally caught up to my head. Not because it was clever, but because it was honest. It wasn't about the original post. It wasn't even about me. It was a demonstration, like some sick sales pitch. Look how clean this is. Look how reusable. Look how little effort it takes to wreck somebody. My mom pushed the phone away and covered her mouth with her hand, like she was trying to keep herself from making noise. She didn't cry hard. She didn't scream. She just looked exhausted, like something basic inside her had cracked. She kept staring at me and then at my mouth, like my mouth was now a suspicious object. I realized then that even if she believed me, I'd still lost something. If your voice can be forged, you don't just lose reputation. You lose the lazy trust that sits under everything. Calls, apologies, jokes, the little hey that used to mean safety. I tried to do practical fixes. I reported the thread. It didn't matter. I asked myself what proof I could even show. I could be standing right there and they could still play me saying the opposite. I thought about calling relatives to preempt it, and then I pictured them picking up and hearing my voice and not knowing if it was me or a puppet. I thought about deleting accounts, but the samples already exist. Once a copy is out, you don't get it back. We sat there at that table for a long time without saying much, because there wasn't much left to say. Outside, the street stayed quiet like nothing happened. Inside, my head kept replaying that clip in the voicemail, not because I missed it, but because my brain wanted to find a seam that wasn't there. It kept landing on the same ugly truth. Those people didn't need to be near me, didn't need to know me, didn't need to hate me. They just needed enough pieces to assemble a version of me that could do damage. No gore, no ghosts. Just a room full of faceless people practicing how to destroy lives with clean, reusable tools. The thread started with a photo of a cheap brass key stamped with a motel logo. Opie said it unlocked doors that shouldn't exist. Anons laughed, then turned it into a challenge. Who could verify it first? I was on a smoke break behind my building, scrolling with one thumb, talking shit with strangers like it mattered. The key looked like junk. The comments didn't. They moved like a pack. They wanted somebody to do it bad enough that they started inventing prizes, calling each other weak, piling on anyone who asked basic questions. OP posted rules like it was a game. Take the key to a building older than you. Find a door you've never opened. Turn it once. Don't go in. Take a photo, leave. People spammed encouragement and called anyone who hesitated a coward. The whole thing had that gross internet tone where nobody believes anything, but everyone still wants blood. You could feel the dare hanging in the air through the screen. I grabbed an old service key from my job and went to the basement of our building because I'm a dumb bastard who wanted to win an argument with strangers. I work maintenance. I carry keys all day. Half the job is unlocking other people's problems and pretending it doesn't get under your skin. The building's old, the kind that keeps secrets by accident. Patched walls, rooms that aren't on the plan, stairwells that smell like piss and bleach. The basement is worse. Boilers, piping, storage cages, concrete that sweats. I didn't have the motel key from the photo. I had one brass key on our ring that never had a tag. Nobody could tell me what it opened. It was always just there, worn smooth, rounded like a coin. I took it anyway because the thread was open on my phone and some asshole kept replying, "Do it," or "Shut up." I typed back something like "Fine" before my brain caught up, and then my pride did the rest. I went down the service stairs with my phone light on. The bulbs on the lower flights are always dead. The handrail is sticky. I passed the laundry machines, the sump pump, the low door that leads to the trash compactor room. I kept listening for footsteps behind me like I was 12 again, sneaking out. Nothing, just the boilers humming and the slap of my boots. I found a metal door behind the boilers with no label. I put the brass key to it as a joke. It slid in clean like it belonged. That's what made my smile die. Keys don't feel like that unless they're meant for the lock. It didn't scrape. It didn't resist. It seated like a handshake. I turned it once. The lock clicked like a tooth snapping. Not a normal latch. A sharp crack buried inside metal. I yanked my hand back and stared at the knob like it had moved on its own. The boiler rumble didn't change, but my ears did. Everything got loud. My breathing. The pipes ticking. My heart punching. I pulled my phone up to take the proof photo because that's what the rules said. My phone camera wouldn't focus. The screen kept showing the hallway behind me instead of the door in front of me, like it insisted I watch my own back. I tapped the door on the screen. It blurred. I tapped again. It grabbed the corridor behind my shoulder, crystal clear, like the camera hated the door. I could see the peeling paint line near the ceiling in perfect detail. I could see the brand plate on the boiler. I could see the wet footprint I just made. The door stayed wrong, like a smear you can't wipe off. I took a few shaky shots anyway, and stepped away because my skin started to crawl. That's when the door handle twitched. Not a breeze, not settling metal, a deliberate pull, then a pause, then another pull, patient as a person waiting to be let out. The handle didn't jiggle like someone struggling. It tested the play, stopped, tested again, calm. Like whatever was on the other side knew I'd done the single turn, and now the rest was on me. I backed up until my shoulders hit a pipe. My mouth went dry. I could have gone closer. I didn't. I grabbed the key ring, fumbled it into my pocket, and moved fast. I kept my eyes on that door until I hit the corner, and then I ran because my body decided for me. I took the stairs like I was fleeing a fire. I came out into the first floor hallway and forced myself to walk because if a tenant saw me sprinting out of the basement at noon, they'd call the office, and I'd have to explain why I was acting like a lunatic. I locked myself in the maintenance shop, sat on an upside-down bucket, and refreshed the thread. I expected the usual bullshit. Pics, or it didn't happen. Memes, people calling me fake. Instead, the thread had new replies already. Anons describing my basement layout, my boiler brand, the peeling paint line near the ceiling. Not guesses. Not probably. Exakt. Someone posted a cropped zoom of my own blurry photo, and circled the boilerplate I hadn't even noticed. Another typed my building's brand of fire door closer. I stared at the screen until my eyes watered. I hadn't said where I worked. I hadn't posted my city. I hadn't posted my building name. I'd posted one shitty image of a metal door. Then somebody replied with my shop's wall color. Another said, "You've got the mop sink to your left, don't you?" My stomach rolled. I stood up and looked at the mop sink. It was to my left. I ran upstairs and checked X. Same thread mirrored there, faster, meaner like it had teeth. New posts weren't even about the key anymore. They were about me. He's the only one down there right now. He took the stairs, not the elevator. He's going to pretend it's nothing. They argued over my height from the reflection. One anon called me a liar, and another told him to shut up because the lock already heard him. Someone typed, "Good. Now, don't sleep." I didn't. I went home early, lied to my supervisor, ignored the look he gave me like I was on drugs. I checked the hall behind me the whole way to my unit. I locked the deadbolt, the chain, the latch, everything. I put painter's tape over the latch, seemed like that would tell me if it moved. I kept checking it like a lunatic, fingers smearing the adhesive, listening for my own swallow. I shoved a chair under the knob, even though I hate that move, hate how it makes you feel like prey. I turned on every light. I kept my shoes on. The thread kept updating without me touching it, like it was refreshing itself. My phone buzzed with replies I didn't click. I'd look and see lines like "he's pacing" and realize I'd been pacing. I'd stop, and then it would buzz again like it noticed. I threw the phone on the couch and sat far from it, like it could bite. I called my buddy Mike because I needed a human voice that wasn't a faceless anon. He laughed at first, called it a creepypasta, told me to stop feeding trolls. I snapped at him, louder than I meant to, told him I was staring at my own lock like it was breathing. He got defensive and said I was making drama out of nothing, that I'd been weird since my breakup, that I should sleep it off. That one pissed me off so bad my hand shook harder. I told him to come over if it was nothing. He said he'd work in the morning and hung up on me. I tried to distract myself with TV and food and all the normal shit you do when you're trying to outrun your brain. The TV noise helped for 10 minutes at a time, then a quiet moment would hit and I'd hear the basement again in my head. That tooth snap, that patient handle pull. I kept thinking about how the rule said don't go in, like the only danger was on the other side of the door, like nothing could follow you back. Around midnight, I heard a tiny click from my front door. Just one. I sat up, so hard my back cracked. I watched the doorknob. It didn't move. I waited for the deadbolt to slide. It didn't. I convinced myself it was the building settling. Then I heard it again, not from the knob, from inside the lock. That internal tick like a key turning. I grabbed my keys and held them like a weapon because I had nothing else. I thought about calling the cops and trying to explain a fucking internet thread and a door in a basement. I thought about waking my neighbor and sounding crazy. I did neither. I sat on my couch with my eyes burning and my jaw clenched, listening. Every time the radiator pinged, I flinched. Every time a car passed outside, I held my breath. Someone replied again on X in the middle of the night, like a reminder, he's awake. Good. I didn't type. I didn't even open the app. I still knew it was there because my phone screen lit up by itself, bright in the dark like it wanted me to look. I didn't. I sat on my couch all night listening for that click. At 3:17 and my apartment door didn't open. It just unlocked, the same single click like a key turning once somewhere on the other side.